Welcome to Ego Radio. We sit down with brilliant artists in fashion, film, and music. Our mission is to help you get in the minds of creatives and entrepreneurs who are breaking ground. It's easy to make a hit, but it's hard to build a career. How do you stay fresh and curious with your artwork and life? That's what we're here to find out. And this week, you will be tuning into a conversation with Honey, the artist behind Honey Kicks, a line of custom Air Force Ones that's been recognized by Nike themselves and worn by John Mayer. But her scope goes far beyond shoes, as she's adopted her distinct painting style to clothes, accessories, and of course, canvases. Creative direction is also in her wheelhouse, as she curates the branding and shoots for her products. Honestly, we touched on a lot of great topics that any artist who's going through growing pains would be feeling. It was a great episode. My name is Ethan. I'll be your host. I'm a filmmaker and photographer. Yeah, let's get into it. Yo, who is that? A Frank shirt? No, who is that?
Wow.
No, that's definitely not a Frank shirt.
This is Ray Allen.
Who's Ray Allen? I don't know.
One, basketball player, and two, he's an actor. And Spike Lee's. Why am I forgetting the game? He got Game?
No, I don't.
Do you watch Spike Lee?
No.
Okay, so yeah,
I've heard so many good things about Spike Lee.
It's a good movie. He's my favorite character. His name is Jesus Shuttlesworth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's like a still from the movie.
Shit, okay. Yeah, that's a fire still.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are you big into movies? You watch a lot of movies?
I love movies. I get a lot of my inspo from there because it's I've always been drawn to this form of storytelling. And that's where I got a lot of my inspo from. So in terms of when I'm making shoes and stuff, I like my shoes to tell a story, tell a narrative from beginning to end or beginning to middle, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think this is where my English degree comes in terms of symbolism and using metaphors and this represents this, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so more indie movies and stuff like that are really inspiring in terms of creating meaning from a still image or a scene.
Damn, okay, so for you, even though you're painting, narrative is still the foundation of
Definitely.
what you do.
Yeah.
How does that play out? Because in movies, right? I'm in film, so the way I see narrative, obviously narrative is the core of it, right? And I think that you're completely right? Narrative, the message, that's what makes good art powerful, right?
Exactly.
How do you bring that into illustration? Where does that?
I think it's a little bit of narratives and storytelling, and it's a little bit of what I feel like drawing, and also a little bit of what emotion I'm trying to depict.
Yeah.
And I think all of that is influenced by how I'm feeling at the moment.
Yeah.
So let's just say I'm feeling nostalgic for whatever reason, and so I'm going to pull from different points of inspiration.
Yeah.
And so let's just say I was inspired by Blonde by Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
I'd prefer not to make something just inspired by that, but I'm going to pull other visual inspo. So that's auditory, and then lyrics-wise, and then something that's a visual type of inspo.
So it's building an atmosphere, mood, almost
exactly.
Something that always comes to mind for me is art that really hits me, and I definitely get this with your art. And it's I feel like I'm being drawn into a universe. A universe in which it has its own color palette, it has its own rules, you know?
Yeah.
Is that do you see that way?
Definitely, and I want a goal is for someone to see my work and be like, yo, Honey made that. That's Honey Studios, or that's Honey Kicks. You know what I mean? I want to have that pronounced style, and it's definitely a work in progress. And I think my style will change over time.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It has to, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're staying stagnant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I was saying about the points of inspiration is, instead of Frank Ocean plus the theme of space equals 2, I'm gonna I want it 1 + 1 = 3 in terms of I'm taking these two things, but I'm making something new.
Like synergy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. You want to bring two things together that don't just add up but multiply.
Exactly.
Something
they
exponential.
Create a new sum.
Yeah. What's walk me through one of your projects and how you
Okay. I think it's Para 31.
Yeah.
And do you know those children's books called
That's
Animorphs?
crazy. You're on Para 30. What Para are you on right now?
32.
God damn.
Yeah.
Jesus. Sorry, go ahead.
You know those children's books, Animorphs?
Yeah.
It's like a person, and they're evolving into a monkey or like an ape or something.
Yeah.
So there's like this transitionary stages.
Yeah.
And so I incorporated that, and I interpreted it as I drew like a woman's face.
Yeah.
And then the next woman's face that's like parallel to that is a woman with less pronounced features.
Got
So
you.
instead of like hair and eyes and a mouth, the next one is just everything except the hair. And then the next one from that is only lips. And then the next one from that is only an outline. And so for me, that's like the transitionary period. And the first face with the most details represented like an I can't speak anymore. An unapologetic woman who is kind of serves as like this symbol of empowerment for women to use her voice and to like stand tall, stand proud.
Yeah.
And so she's inspiring other women through her powerful actions. And so each face coming from the first one is kind of like the people that she's inspiring.
Yeah.
And the features get more and more vague so other people can envision themselves within the illustration.
Wow.
So that was one of the parts.
Yeah.
And then the client wanted Maya Angelou quotes on it from her poem called Phenomenal Woman.
Yeah.
So I repeated that multiple times, like all over the shoe, kind of to like just be like in your face about it and not like quiet.
Yeah.
And then the colorway was inspired by Frank Ocean's Pink Matter. So the first lyric is the peaches and all the peaches and the mangoes that you can sell for me.
Yeah.
And so I had like a coral color and a baby pink color, like cotton candy Majin Buu. And then I had like peach trees and mango trees to symbolize like growth and fruition.
Yeah.
Beauty. Yeah.
That's
It's all those things
stunning.
combined into one shoe. 1 + 1 = 3 with like all of those different sources of inspiration and how I interpreted them in visual elements.
That's gorgeous. That's gorgeous.
Thank you.
I can really see how those
pair.
like come together into
into
one unified vision. So like my question to you is like doing all that, right? Like right now, post, you can break it down like I did this, came out like that. When you were making it, was it as conscious of a process or is it just kind of like I'm just pulling from like different?
Definitely not. I think that's one of the most stressful periods, the time where I have a vague surface level concept, but that time between, I guess, ideation to execution, there's so much like different thoughts that come in part. And so what I like to do is, let's just say I have an idea and you come to me as a client, this is what you're requesting. But I'm gonna have the idea and let it sit, let it marinate for 2 weeks or so. And then I think like between that period, I'll get a lot more ideas and like, that was like a good idea at first, but it's too simple. And then I will build on it with time. And that's why I like to keep like loose deadlines. And if someone wants a pair of shoes, like tell me like months or weeks in advance, because that if you want it to be a good, worthwhile quality product, that time, that like thought process takes
it needs to marinate.
a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe not months, but weeks.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
No, I totally get what you mean because I think like even like we just wrapped recording your visual for the podcast. And so we took a look at the shot list together before we got started. And going through that, coming up with a shot list or coming up with, like, you don't even start with a shot list, right? You start with ideation in terms of like video, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with you, I'm sure. Like you just start with ideas, right? And it's just kind of like free form coming out of you.
Exactly.
But I've noticed for me, and I think like with a lot of like great artists, you don't know exactly where your ideas are coming from, right? Like they kind of just pop into your head and you're not sure where they came from. But looking back, you're like, oh, I got that from there. I got that from there. And I totally feel you when you're saying that. That period is scary because great art, I feel like, comes from that place where you don't know exactly where it is. It's not like hard, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Genius, you know? It's more so like, I'm going to sit here with my emotions and see what comes out. Yeah.
And I think especially in the beginning stages, you might have an idea, but there's times where I'm like, okay, maybe I can do more, I can do better. I want this to be better than my last piece, you know?
Yeah.
And then it gets scary.
That is huge, right? I want this to be better than the last thing I made. That's like crippling. That's like a crippling thing.
Exactly.
Right? How do you deal with that?
The piece I made last month was so sick. I really, really liked it. Like that's me right now with the Animorphs shoe.
Sure.
Like, how am I gonna top that, right? So then I feel like sometimes when I have that anxiety, I tap into different mediums.
Yeah.
And so I'm paying more attention to creative direction and styling right now.
Yeah.
Just to like take the pressure off of the shoes for a little bit.
Yeah.
And like when I get those ideas, I will return to that.
Got you.
For Remix, we read this book called Steal Like an Artist.
Yeah.
Forget the author, but his last name is Cleon, I believe.
Okay.
And he encouraged to have different mediums that you tap into, and not even just mediums if you maybe are only good at one or only comfortable with one, but having different hobbies.
Yeah.
So what if it's like gardening and cooking and photography?
Yeah.
Right? So let's just say you're hitting a creative block with photography. You can go do gardening or cooking for like a week or two until you have new ideas and fresh ideas from photography.
Yeah.
So you're not just like stuck like, okay, this is the only thing I can do, it's the only thing I want to do.
Yeah.
And you're like hitting a glass ceiling.
Yeah, because humans are not like one-dimensional, right?
Exactly.
And it's so easy to get lost in your work because like, well, we love our work, right? Like, and but the thing is like, you have to live a life to draw inspiration, right? Like you can't draw inspiration from an empty well. You gotta go fill your well and then come back and
I was having this conversation with some of my friends, and so I'm from Scarborough, from the East End.
Yeah.
And hey. And I know a lot of my friends and creatives are from Brampton as well.
Yeah.
And so since I grew up in the suburbs, I felt like there was not a lot to do.
Yeah.
And so I stayed home and I made shit.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my friends from Brampton could relate. They're like, yo, there's not a lot to do. We're just gonna sit here and keep experimenting and like making stuff and like see what sticks.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so now I'm in this space between I come here for school, I come here for Remix, I come here for like work or whatever. But I love returning to the suburbs because it's quiet.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just like serene, and all the ideas and like all the buzz I might have from the city, I can unleash it into the things that I'm making. Or if I'm just home for like 2 weeks, like if I'm like staying in Scarborough or not really coming to the city, then it's kind of calm.
Yeah.
I like where I live. It's very quiet, and like you need to drive to get everywhere, but it's just quiet. It's like a nice residential area. Go for a bike ride, go for a run with my brother around the blocks.
Yeah.
It's nice and quiet. So I like the balance between both.
Yeah, no, 100, and you need that.
Exactly.
You need that, because constant, like, your brain will just get flooded.
Yeah.
What can you do? You need peace, you need serenity.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me that's just like taking like some time every morning just to like sit and not do anything.
Yeah.
Just like literally just sit there. just stare at a fucking wall.
Just
you know?
exist, not live, just exist. Yeah.
Yeah, do you have any like spiritual practices or anything like that? Or?
I think prayer helps a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's a form of meditation.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
my connection with like, I don't know, I'm doing this like energy.
Connection. Connect. Beam me up.
It's my conversation, my constant conversation I have with God.
Yeah.
And another one is obviously art, like painting physically, writing it down. And I was going to say journaling.
Yeah.
That's something I've stuck with since high school, and it has just it has just done me so well.
Yeah.
And I think I'm on my third journal now, like others are like full now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to be, oh, this is what I did today. Sometimes it's just like poetry. Sometimes it's just free verse.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's nothing. There's days where I just don't write. But then sometimes when I do write, and it's like 5 pages in a row, and I'm flipping because my mind is just racing. It's like thinking 10,000 things at once. I'm trying to funnel it into like, okay, 1 line at a time.
Yeah, actually,
that was a lot. I spoke so fast.
Nah. I was really intently listening because I do the same shit. Like,
oh, you write as well?
Yeah, I write. I journal because I think it's super key to journal too. Just because it's a space where you can write and it's not for anything.
Exactly.
Like, it's just writing for the sake of writing.
Exactly.
For the sake of getting the thoughts out of your head onto paper. Which is like. Because everything we do is for something, you know what I mean? Like I'm making this podcast right now for ego, you know, and that's gonna go out for whatever.
He's happy about it though. I'm not holding him hostage.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, just having that like space, to just like write, free flow, like spell shit incorrectly, not give a fuck, right? That is like, because that's like, I feel like that's almost a form of self-acceptance.
Exactly.
Because just accepting that, okay, this is. And I almost like to write and purposely, like, even if I'm like, just keep going. Like, specifically don't take the pen off the paper.
I think that's called stream of consciousness. Yeah. Just like.
Yeah. So you're just going.
And I think it helps. I'm an English major, so I've been studying English professionally, academically, for 4 years now.
Yeah.
And there was a period where I couldn't write for pleasure. I couldn't just write for fun because my headset was like in a very academic, like essay format. And so I wrote very analytically. And then somewhere in there, I lost the feeling of writing just to like get my feelings out, you know? And like also in my essays, like I am explaining like thought and like feelings, I guess, opinion, I would say. But I'm recently getting back to just writing for expression, and like introspection is so important to me. Just like reflecting on where I am, where I want to be, how to get there, why I'm mad at something, why I'm sad at something. That's so important to me. I like to like stay in I don't want to say in control, in like balance. As long as I can be. Obviously,
I just want to check one thing real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Which camera is this? Yeah, okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, thank God. Yeah. Yeah, just a couple of technical things I was just worried about. Yeah. Sorry, what did you just say?
I was gonna say obviously there's spikes in emotion with like life.
Yeah.
But as long as you know that like why you're reacting this way.
Yeah.
And how to get back to like your there's a science term, equilibrium. There's another word, I forget. But
peace. I think peace is like the word, right? The way I see it, people are devious. You know what I mean? Like we're all a little bit devious.
You think so?
I think so, inherently, right? We're good too. I think we're like just as bad as we are good. You know, in the sense that like there's like, I'm sure you've heard of like the shadow, like, you know what I mean? Like Carl Jung has like we all have that shadow, that dark side to ourselves.
Did he come out with the archetypes? Is that?
No, that's Joseph Campbell. But he's talking about how we all have these dark impulses, right? You know what I mean? So when you're angry, right? When you're realistically like, if you're looking at shit from a calm perspective, right? You're never gonna be angry. You're always gonna be like, okay, there's a rational reason why someone's treating me this way, or why I'm in this situation, or whatever, right?
Or there's an irrational reason why that person's treating me this way, but I'm gonna respond rationally.
Exactly.
Or I'm gonna remove myself from the equation.
Yeah.
So just like knowing, being mindful of your actions.
Yeah. I think that's like giving your. So I'm reading Andy Warhol's book. I forget what it's called, but it's kind of like his manifesto, like his life philosophy. And there's this one. It's so strange. He's the strangest human, and he's talking about how he's saying, I think I might be the most jealous person on earth, and he just lists like the most like mundane, like petty things. And he's like, I'm jealous about this, I'm jealous about that, I'm jealous about that. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, realistically, yeah, me too. Like, and I think we all are, but it's just that we feel it, and we're just like, nah. Right?
That makes me feel better, the fact that Andy Warhol is jealous of so many things. I'm like, okay, I'm doing okay then.
Yeah, right? Realistically. And it's like, we all feel these negative emotions, but I feel like when you don't validate them, when you're not like, yeah, I felt this way, I feel like the more negative emotions that you validate and look at and then say no, the more you can actually be in the green. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm slowly learning to not project all the time, and learning that almost everybody else is projecting all the time, so not to take things personally.
So break down projecting was?
So let's just say I am insecure about my looks or something. And someone told me, oh, you look really nice today. And then I'm like, oh my God, they're saying I don't look good every other single day. I just look good like right now. So I'm gonna take that as an insult. So I'm projecting my insecurities onto like how you're treating me.
Got you.
Even though it's like not related. I might be butchering the translation a little bit, or the definition. That's like essence
more
of it.
More or less, yeah.
So I'm learning like not everything needs to be taken to heart, and not everything needs to be taken personally. Not to say like I'm like stone cold, no feelings or anything, but like there's a time and a place for everything. And in general, like I just feel so much better. There's like a weight lifted off my shoulders to being mindful and like realizing, and I guess just taking things for what they are, instead of being like, okay, this is how it affects me. This is the planet revolves around me. Like, ease down. I hope I explained that. Okay.
I think you explained it beautifully, and that's like, I think that's what we can like all like hope to strive for. Realistically,
like
right?
I'm not even there yet, but it's something. It's like a work in progress.
Yeah, I mean,
helps so much.
Yeah, I'm not there either, and I'm getting closer every day, and that's what's like
that's
stunning,
what matters,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself. Shit.
Always.
Yeah, I think mindfulness is like the root of. I think as overall, right? There's so many different facets, right? There's the relationships that we have with our friends and family. There's the work that we do. There's being able to bring yourself down, being able to bring yourself up. And that all has to do with mindfulness. That just being aware of like what's really going on in your mind. Yeah.
I guess something else that I constantly struggle with is like understanding I cannot control everything.
Yeah.
And so I try to, I guess, keep in mind of everything that is in my control, and those things I try to like do the best at, or like be really organized with. Obviously, shit happens, life happens, things go wrong and stuff. But just realizing like, yo, this is like my place in the universe. This is where I stand with myself.
Yeah.
Having like, I guess, like building that self-esteem, which is obviously a work in progress. But yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're cocky with your art yet? Do you feel like you're like, yeah?
No, I don't think I ever will be.
That's good.
I don't think so, because to me it's a form of self-expression.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm better than anybody else.
Yeah. Do you think being cocky is feeling like you're better than others?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's like literally the definition.
Oh, is that literally the definition?
Yeah.
True.
Like being overconfident.
Yeah, I feel like a way to, it's coming back to looking at reality, right? Like you're talking about not letting your project, like you're talking about not wanting to project onto other people, right? And not letting other people project onto you. When you're projecting, you're just distorting reality. You're distorting like what reality is. And I think it's the same thing when you're looking at, like, it's really hard to look back at your art and be like, look at it objectively, you know?
Yeah.
Do you feel like what are your thoughts on that? Like, in terms
I was
of,
gonna
your
say,
art
like, sometimes if I feel like my more well thought out pieces, like, okay, this is a metaphor for this, I have a whole written explanation for this, everything here has a purpose. Those pieces compared to like, yo, I just made that because it looked cool. And those pieces are so popular. I'm like, this is so easy. I just like did a 1-2 stroke, you know, compared to like I put so much thought into this, there's so much meaning behind this. And I feel like the one that's that like I did quickly, more people can maybe relate to, and it takes less effort to understand. It's just like, okay, that's cool, compared to like I have to read this girl's like whole thought process and stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for like mass public, I guess, the easier pieces, the easier to swallow pieces are more popular.
Do you try to cater to what you think people will like, or do you not look at that?
I would be lying if I said I don't care, because that's not true.
Yeah.
I think that's also a work in progress. I want to say I'm getting more confident in like, this is what I have to offer.
Take it or leave it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you excited about right now? Like, what pieces are you looking at? Like,
I have this sneaker customization workshop coming up.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So these girls at Red Rose magazine, and in collaboration with Mac House at Stacked, and courtesy of Nike Toronto, they're supplying Air Forces, and I'm gonna be hosting like a customization workshop.
That's fire.
And
that's
it
amazing.
sold out in 3 hours.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's how many tickets?
It's only 6.
Okay.
Because each one is $130.
Holy shit,
It's expensive. It's like because you're getting a pair of shoes.
Shoes,
You have all access to Mac House supplies.
That's like a great deal, actually.
And like I'm teaching you.
Yeah.
So,
and like I'm here, so like
teaching you, you know, like I had to gas myself a little bit.
Of course, yeah. You're there.
So
You've been making these fire Air Forces. Do you feel like Air Forces are your staples?
Yes and no, in terms of, yes, I love the Air Force One silhouette. It's just iconic, and like it's a canvas.
Yeah.
I just see it as a canvas. I don't see it as a shoe, you know?
Yeah.
Well, maybe both. But
you're like, what? This goes on my feet?
Wait. Yeah. But also, I don't want to be known as a sneaker customizer.
Yeah.
I don't want to pigeonhole myself like that, and because I'm so much more. I think of myself as a storyteller before anything else. Yeah.
What are the stories that you're trying to tell right now?
Right now, I think my work will always surround itself around female empowerment, experiences as an immigrant and a person of color, and mental health, and like being, like, I guess, like, how do I say this? Putting more attention and awareness towards sexual abuse victims and being objectified as a woman. Like those stories are just innately important to me, being a woman of color and stuff. I want other people who identify with me, or I want to be serving as a form of representation. Like, I guess growing up, I didn't see a lot of people who look like me on TV, or especially in the fashion industry. There's like barely any brown women, you know? And so I want to be that person that like 5-year-olds, like someone else can like look up to and be like, yo, she looks like me. I can have a career in fashion or in arts or in like English, literature, whatever.
Yeah, no, that's super key, because like especially in South Asian cultures in general, it's not like, it's looked down upon if you're going into the arts, if you're going into, so yeah, that's
because it's not STEM.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's not STEM. It's not like a traditional path. It's not a really secure path to earning high income, right? But life's about more than that. Not that we're not trying to get to these bags, but like
yeah. Like obviously, I think like I'm a firm believer if you're putting in that much work, and if you have a good message behind it, and if you have good intentions, compared to I just want clout. Like I want my story. I want these people's stories to be heard. I want my story to be heard. Then keep working, and like you have to have talent too. I think a little bit of talent sprinkled in there and work ethic. Then give it time and keep working.
Work ethic I think if you have work ethic, that will trump everything else. Doesn't matter if you.
So?
I think you start off like I've seen it before my own eyes. Like I've seen people start out as like garbage, but they just love it. They just keep going and they become amazing. Amazing. I think if you really want it, it doesn't matter if you have talent. It doesn't matter if you like. Obviously, like you want to go towards something that you have an inclination towards, right? Like you gotta like it. Beyond that, I think it doesn't.
You gotta hate it.
I think that's the only like real barrier, right? And it's like after that, it's like it's up to you. It's in your hands.
Because there's like you can have the most talent in the whole world, but if you're not executing it, if you're not chasing it, if you're not working at it, then no one's ever gonna know. Then you're just gonna be this high and mighty genius that like. You're gonna be arrogant and shit, but for what?
For what? Yeah.
It's your own fault, you know. So
yeah.
Not in like blame those people, but like have that courage or whatever.
Yeah. What
easier said than done, but yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It really is easier said than done. But what other mediums are you like looking to go into? Are you looking to go into any other mediums?
As I mentioned, art direction. And ultimately creative direction. Obviously, I love painting on clothing. I guess it's like the shoes, but less niche in terms of like, I think the custom shoes are like for, I don't want to say hypebeast market, but for like the shoe connoisseur market. And then the clothing is just like anyone who likes to like express themselves through clothing, you know? And it's not as, I lied. I was gonna say it's not as expensive, but I did lie, because I would charge like the same amount-ish.
It's just more accessible, is what you're saying.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Other mediums, trying to experiment with painting on different, what's it called? On different things, so like glass, as we painted today. And like stenciling, spray painting, stuff like that.
Damn. Why painting? Like, how'd you fall into painting?
Honestly, like I wouldn't consider painter as like my top identities. Because I don't know what I'm doing. I had to watch that. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm literally just like, this is my emotion, and like this is how I'm gonna put it onto paper or put it onto a canvas, right? It's more so I like how colors make me feel and different combinations make me feel, and like I'm so interested in like different forms and shapes and like how those also elicit emotion and feeling. I don't.
Interesting.
I wouldn't say painter is like top 5. Like how I would describe myself. I would say artist, because that can mean so many things.
Creator. Honey the creator. Fuck Tyler.
Honey Studios. Oh, I just took what you said.
So do you so I saw you rebrand yourself, Honey Studios. Are you trying to like, would you like, is that the next goal? Like have a full-fledged studio where you're pumping out like Air Forces, clothing, like a clothing line, all that stuff.
Yeah, like I said, since I'm trying to get into more art and creative direction, it's not just like, oh, she's here to paint shoes. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, you need a stylist for this shoot, Honey Studios. You need a pair of fresh kicks for your music video, Honey Kicks. Honey Studios, like, you know? I'm trying.
Brand's on its way.
Give me like 5 years and like I think I'll be better at a couple things.
Do you I think like all creatives are inherently like entrepreneurs as well. Do you feel like you're like do you feel that way? Do you feel like as a creator you're also forced? I feel like you're forced to be an entrepreneur.
I guess it depends on how you decide to chase it.
True.
If you're creative, but that's not how you identify as a lifestyle, or that's not how you want to identify as a lifestyle, this is something you make art for yourself, for your home. You're not really like, you don't want to distribute it, you know, compared to like, okay, I'm an artist and I want everybody to know my message. I want people to like identify with it. I want to spread my message, and maybe you're an entrepreneur. I think labels, give them as much power as you want to.
Yeah, you're saying find your own path. Don't fall prey to what everyone else is doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, so entrepreneurship is like, for me, like personally, I think when you are pursuing a lifestyle where you're trying to make income off the art that you're also creating, it inherently becomes kind of like entrepreneurial, you know? Because you're trying to figure out any which way you can to monetize what you're creating, right? Obviously, you're also trying to create just what you want to create, and finding that balance of being able to purely express what you want to express and having people give you money for that, you know? Like that to me is just like, that's entrepreneurship at its core.
I guess there's also the type of entrepreneur that was just like, yo, I just want to make money.
Yeah, facts.
You know?
Yeah, I just want to make bank.
So it depends like how you identify too.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I'd love to make a living. Like, not living as in like barely getting by, because that's where I am right now. And I'm like so thankful to be living with my parents. So like food, like rent, that's like covered for. But I'd want to make a living where like I'm good. Like I can pay my cousin's tuition. And her, like my niece's tuition, good. You know, like help others who are in the position where I am right now get to where they want to be. And that doesn't mean just like financially. I want to like help them in terms of like, this is what I learned. This is like the mistakes I made. Don't make those mistakes, and like here's the lesson without having to go through the tough part.
Looking back, for the time that you've been in art so far, what are some like big lessons you feel like you learned?
That's a good question. I want to say trial and error is a really big one. Sometimes, I think all the time, I lied. If I'm not good at something within the first 5 minutes, I don't do it anymore. Just so bad, because I'm like stunting my growth, right? So I want to say trial and error. You will suck, but if this is something you do want to pursue, then it's worth sucking for a little bit, and then you're gonna get better. Because if you're at the rock bottom, like this is like the worst thing you've ever made, then you can't really go lower than that. You might like only climb like one step, but that's an improvement from last time. Right? So I want to say trial and error. Experimenting has helped me a lot. So like before, I used to create mainly just visuals, symbolic, right? But then we read this play in one of my English classes that was about 14th century literature or something like that. And we read a play called Dr. Faustus. I don't want to go on a whole tangent explaining that, but I took quotes from it and I incorporated an entire painting based off of that theme.
Damn, okay.
So like super briefly, it's about like this man who feels, even though he's like smart and he's rich and he's like stable, he feels like being mortal as a human is not enough. And so he sells his soul to the devil in order to like transcend humanity. And then the devil tells him like, yo, once I have your soul, like you're gonna be eternally damned in hell. He's like, no, that's fine, don't worry about it. And then he slowly learns that like having no soul is not worth it, and like all of that stuff. It's a really good play.
Damn, that's insane. That's from the 14th century?
14th, 15th, or 16th. It's
Holy
like
shit.
Somewhere in there. So it's really hard to read. But I guess since I was taking it in university, like the professor like explained it to us and like step by step. Amazing. Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe.
I will actually check that out. That sounds like incredible.
It's one of my favorites.
I think like a lot of the times I think about what it was like to be a writer in the past. You know what I mean? Be a playwright, something like that. Or just in general, like just to be alive in the past, you know? Because like now I feel like we have so many things bombarding us like 24/7, right? If you're bored, there's always something to fill that gap. So you don't have to be bored. You just like, it's always a choice. If you're bored, you're making a decision, basically,
That's
right?
Interesting.
And how does that like, and that really changes the way that our mind's work. You know, I think like sometimes I intentionally make time, you know, just to be bored. Do you ever find yourself doing that, like to draw from a well of creativity, or do you feel like it's just like flowing?
I think I get burnt out really quickly, and I don't notice it happening until I'm burnt out. And so that can either be from school, from like emotional stress, or I'm like overworking myself creatively. It can be from like multiple things. And so I don't do nothing. I think I watch Netflix, which I guess I'm not doing anything, but then that's where I get my inspo from too. And I try not to think of it as like I'm watching this show so I can create a shoe based off of it. I'm watching the show because it's genuinely interesting.
Yeah.
And I was talking about Mindhunter recently, and that's what I binge watched recently.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, very great.
That's like that's my genre though. I like stuff like that.
What's like briefly? What's Mindhunter about?
I want to say based on a true story, like maybe loosely, but it's how they came up with the terminology of like serial killers. And so it's like pretty sick. And so before they used to study murders in terms of like, oh, this person's just crazy, he killed this like innocent people. But then Mindhunter explores the psychology behind it. What are the signs that this person showed so we can prevent it from happening in the future? And how do we categorize this person's murders that shows like a pattern?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. That's insane.
It's a really good show. David Fincher, I love him.
David Fincher is incredible.
Fight Club. Yeah. Social Network. Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah, Girl with Dragon Tattoo. Yeah. That movie is like insane. Yeah. Insane.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. Again, David Fincher is like great at building a universe. A universe in which it's kind of like ours, but not quite. You know what I mean? Like
something's little off.
Exactly. Just like that little twinge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
what kind of what are the movies that inspire you? You're talking about
I think it's for different things.
Yeah.
I like a lot of independent, like low-key movies.
Really? Okay.
I just watched this movie called Short Term 12.
Yeah.
And you know Rami Malek?
Yeah, of course.
He's in it. This came out in like 2013.
Oh shit.
So this is like him like way before.
Yeah.
Brie Larson, Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
You know the girl from Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Which one?
The
blonde?
No, she's brunette. She's like mean.
Yeah.
That girl.
Yeah.
And it's about just like social.
It's a good cast.
Yeah. Not social. It's about like foster homes and what's the thing system? Something system starts with S. I don't know, the foster system.
Yeah.
And so that just really looked at childcare and like understanding children's issues and like the abuse they may be going through and how to tackle that and how to be persistent, how to be tolerant and how to help them through it. And aspiring, there you go, I'll say inspiring. Elementary school teacher, that was really interesting to watch because these children have just gone through hell and back and like how to tackle those issues, I guess.
Yeah. Are you still planning on pursuing like a career in education?
I don't know. Like I see it happening. I'm about to graduate in a couple months.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely gonna take a break between my undergrad and teachers college. But I can't see it happening. But within that gap, who knows what's gonna happen? I'm gonna like pursue my art stuff like full time.
Yeah.
And see where that takes me.
Yeah.
I'd love to become like an art teacher or something.
Yeah. I can see you killing that. Just,
Thank you.
Telling little kids like, try it this way.
My little Basquiat or like little Picasso.
That's sick. Yeah. Teaching is like inherently like wonderful too, right? Like showing someone how to like sharing knowledge.
I love that whole concept. Yeah. What do you movies? You got inspiration from movies, music. What are you reading? What are you up to? Like. What am I reading
in that
right
aspect?
now? Right now, just like school books.
So unfortunately the audio cut out there. That's all we got for this episode. But honey, thank you for coming through. Really appreciate you sitting down, sharing your knowledge, and I hope everyone enjoyed this. We'll see you next week with another episode.